the GR Network. I am Sheena Ibube, and today I have an amazing human being here with us. I love her so much. This woman means the world to me. She is Rene Smal. Hi, say hi, Rene.
Hello.
And Rene has been a very, very influential and impactful person in my story and the story of a lot of other educators who've been able to come in contact with just her presence and her energy. This is one of the word we use often when we have our conversation is that we're both empaths. But genuinely, empathy just oozes from this woman, a heart of gold. Like, you know, when you're reading some like beautiful poetry and you're like, if that could just be manifested in a person, what would it look like? And it is this woman right here. I've never met. Was it someone the other day said to me, "You beautiful eyes see beautiful people," but like this soul is just so wonderful to be around. As someone who met her, we met years ago.
Yes, yeah. It's been 6 years.
Wow, it's been 6 years. Yeah. And it really, in many ways, it feels like yesterday.
Yes.
But in many ways, it feels much longer than 6 years. Like we have a very special relationship that developed that I didn't think I would find in someone who at one point, actually, you've always been my supervisor in some form or fashion.
Yes.
But this woman right here is my mentor, and just it is an honor and a privilege to have you here on the GR Network. Let's talk about you. You have a dynamic story, where you're from, who you are. It's a lot. It really is a lot. Go for it. Tell us where you're from.
Okay, before I do that, I want to say I don't know about all of that, but she has been my mentor as well. I think what makes our relationship really special is the fact that we could be away from each other 4 years.
Yeah.
And the moment we get back together, it's like we saw each other yesterday. So I think this is a very much a mutual growth,
symbiotic relationship.
Yes, absolutely. It's always that thing when people ask me where I'm from, I have to pause because I don't really know how to express it or how to explain it. So I hold a South African passport. However, I am not from South Africa. I am actually from Namibia, which used to be Southwest Africa at one point of time. I grew up on a farm, have some amazing experiences, living very much a true African life for some parts of my life. However, at a very young age, I went to Egypt, and I feel that the informative years, the years where I really grew into the person that I am, I was in Egypt. I am married an Egyptian. I've got my family. My family is Egyptian. These are the people that I've spent the last 30 years of my life with. Mm-hmm. So this is I think in the core of me, I'm probably more Arab Egyptian than I probably am to my South African or Namibian nationality.
Okay.
Let's pause here.
Oh, okay. We're going to pause 1 moment. So we are here in Hangzhou, China. I'm not going to mess it up like I did in the previous video. We're in Hangzhou, China. I've come to visit Rene, and let's talk about your journey on how you got to here. So you obviously, so you've lived a majority of your life in Egypt, and then you decided to then enter the international education world. Well,
I mean, education is the profession that I grew on and I chose later in my life, but it's not where I started out being. I probably would have been more interested in doing banqueting, entertaining, those kind of rounds. However, when I went to Egypt, being an English speaker, working there seemed to be most probable to be a teacher. And at the beginning, I would say that I wasn't really good at it.
Oh, fair enough. We grow.
Yes, I would definitely say my first experience with kindergarten children, I was like, I don't know why they don't get it. I just don't know. There's something wrong here. It took me a good 6 months into the year to be like, oh, you're the problem.
Reflect.
Not
Let's
the 20,
reflect inward.
not the 25 children you take care of, but actually you are the problem. So
What were some problems that you felt that, aside from perhaps patience, what did you feel that you lacked?
well, I feel like it's that thing. You get a book or you get like a direction of, oh, this is what you need to teach the children. And then you go in front of the class and you teach. You tell them, this is what you're supposed to learn. And then they're not responding.
I wonder why.
Yes. So I think it was more that thing of like just thinking, like assuming that people learn as I do, and then projecting that and expecting a response, and then finding out there is no response, or that it's not the response that I was expecting. So I mean, I loved the kids, but I didn't think they're really smart because they're obviously not getting it.
Okay.
But again, it's like it's funny now, but it's like at that stage it was really just like, why are they not getting this? Like, what am I doing wrong here? Or it took a while to get to the what am I doing wrong? But once I did, I really wanted to learn. So I did start to visit other people's classes, and I was like, oh, that's why they're not getting it.
Like, oh, I have to reevaluate my strategies here and now myself.
Exactly. And then I was really privileged to be invited to a new school. And this school didn't require you necessarily to have a teaching qualification, but they also were not ready to put someone in the classroom who's not knowledgeable. So they spent 6 weeks of orientation before the school started. So they hired like 3 expats at the same time, and they basically put us into a crash course in teaching, and they only picked one of us at the end of the 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And I was fortunate enough to really just absorb everything that they were like presenting at that time. Met some really amazing people, was really inspired, and then they put me into a grade 1 classroom, and it was one of a team of 8. It was just a place of growth. Like you just had to think on your feet. You had to think. You had to be really prepared because there's nobody that's going to prep for you. So you need to like think ahead, get your things ready. And then my second year there, because they realized that I just really love children, they thought it's wise to put a really autistic child in my class.
Okay.
And that child, his name is Ahmed, I would never forget him. He was this beautiful boy, but just really struggling to find his place in this world. But he was my true inspiration because I learned more from him in the first month of school, and I took lessons from him that I took for the rest of my life because I needed to be organized. I needed to be consistent, and I needed to have a very scheduled day that I could just get onto things and make it happen. And he was my inspiration because I knew nothing about how to deal with him. All of those kind of things came as a result of having this really challenging child in my class. And yeah, I actually tried to still stay in touch with his parents. And then actually I got an opportunity to go to Dubai.
Okay.
And that's where my that's where actually my international journey started.
Wow.
Like my Egypt journey ended and my international journey started.
Okay. And I'm listening to you speak about this child, and we're going to get into today's topic that you've chosen, and I love that, we've chosen it, but you're going to be talking about this topic very soon at a leadership conference about relationships, building relationships. And it's one thing, if anybody meets Rene and they stay with her long enough, you realize very quickly how motherly she is. And she can't help it. She just really can't. We have a guest here with us who's also laughing in the back like, yep, that is true. But it's your most amazing quality. For those who I've seen people who are hard, they're so hard, completely just become mush in your presence because of what you put out. So I could see a child like that gravitate to you and be very, I've seen it live. We've had, when we've worked together, we've had some students that are like, oh, okay, we need to put some safety, parameters around this child. And they don't necessarily act that way with you, where you have a thing, it's a gift, it is a gift. But now, so when we met 6 years ago in a school in Beijing. It was really, when we're talking about building relationships, like you came into a situation where I actually felt bad for you. I was just like, oh no. I was like, people here are just so jaded and she's so kind and oh, they're just gonna try to eat her alive. And you managed it so well, and you managed these very different, like, oh, just a range of personalities. You managed to get people to listen to you, but the ones that I think it was like when you find those true core people, you helped me tremendously to get through my next stages of development in education. I really would not be sitting here right now doing the things that I love to do if it wasn't for someone not telling me what to do, but getting me to break down the thoughts and put them, back together in different puzzle pieces. It was like, you're just wonderful at getting people to do this. So now let's talk about, why do you think it's important for people to build genuine relationships? Obviously, as a leader, you have to build relationships with your staff. You have to figure out a way to get them to do their best. And that could be very surface, or maybe like one level down of deepness. But you really do get people to really consider and think if they even want to be in this field. So why do you think you're able to do that? But also, what is the importance of that?
Okay, I think maybe we should backtrack, because I think because I never became a leader, or I never became or went into leadership because I was thinking about the money, or I was thinking about the prestige, or I was thinking, I always ended up being in a situation where I was doing the work anyway. So eventually I usually started as a teacher in a school and then ended up being in the leadership. So it wasn't like necessarily something which I was grasping for per se. But I think just as teaching is a journey, so is leadership. I think initially it's similar like when I walked into the class the first time. I had this idea, like I have to fix people. I have to like make them do stuff that they're supposed to do, whether it's the school's requirement, whether it's my own perception of what needs to be done, or whether it's like because I studied and I researched and I know what people are supposed to do, so this is what needs to happen. And in growing as a leader and starting to realize that children, you can still guide and mold, and you still have an influence to a certain extent of the direction that they're going to take. And because you are bigger and stronger and louder, they will respond to you telling them what to do, even if it's not actually going to affect the rest of their life. But in that moment, they are going to respond to you. But adults is different. And you're either going to attract people or you're going to repel people. And I think leadership is that journey where you need to make peace with the reality that you're dealing with people, with adults, with people that are already coming from their own journey, and their perceptions are not the same as yours. Their background is not the same as yours. Their understanding of education is not the same as yours. And I think especially in international education, we assume, well, Francis and Penel, well, everybody knows Francis and Penel. No, everybody does not know Francis and Penel, because it depends what their journey was like and what their experiences are. And I think we spoke about this before, like we always talk about differentiation. We demand that people should differentiate in their classrooms. But we don't differentiate with adults as leaders. Like we assume that we just give that instructions. This is what needs to happen. And we expect adults to all respond in the same way. So I think for me, it's been like a journey of getting to know myself. And I've been in places where I was just giving everything, where I drained myself. I affected my own health, and I went to other places where I decided, no, I'm just going to put that boundaries up, and I'm just going to be a boss, and I'm going to. So I think that just as teaching, leadership too is a journey. And then I think what happened to me maybe in the last few years is as a result of my journey, as a result of working with people online who was away from their family and their friends for extended time, and like really understanding the human side of teachers, like moving away from just a professional perspective of people, but really starting to get to know, like, oh, this person is stuck in COVID in a house with 5 other people that's technically strangers to her, but she can't move out because she can't really afford it, because she doesn't have the capital right now to just get her own place, and she's stuck here until she can come back. All of those kind of dynamics that happened during that period of time, really started to make me see that it is the relationships we build. It is really the relationships we build. And then I was part of a school that was very forward thinking, full of alternative educational philosophies. They used a lot of business perspectives into education. And then they spoke a lot about feedback. They spoke a lot about, and then I was tasked with this thing where you have to give people like constant feedback, because that's how they're going to get better. But then the moment I started to do that, I started to realize, but people are not always ready to receive feedback. And why should they receive feedback from a person who might or might not know them? Like, there's also this idea that we feel like we're tasked with this thing that we have to do, but it doesn't mean that we're doing it right. So I, again, realized the importance of relationships. Because when you open up yourself enough and you're vulnerable enough to allow people to see the best and the worst of you, like, or not necessarily the worst, but like identify that you do have your weaknesses. You're still human.
Yes, you're human.
Like you're not this perfect model for them. Like you have bad days too. You might not be a morning person. I'm not a morning person. And all of those kind of things. But did you see them?
Yeah.
Like, you see all of them. You see that today is not a good day. And maybe you're not going to professionally pressure them today, but it doesn't.
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't change their responsibility, but it does change the way that you approach them in supporting how they do their job. And it's also a thing that we're always focusing on the children. We're focusing like children. Like, you have to think about the children. But you also have to think about the adults.
Correct.
Because they're the ones teaching
the children,
the children. So, I mean, there's this thing, happy teachers teaches happy children. And I do believe in that. And that happiness doesn't mean, oh, because you paid them a lot of money, now they're happy.
Correct.
So now they're going to teach good professionally. No, it means about being seen, being appreciated, being
cultivated.
Yes, and also, again, like that modification of differentiation, because not everybody needs the same things from you.
Thank you for saying that, because you just segued with that comment to what I was going to ask you. We've worked in 2 different schools,
Yes.
very different energies. And the first time, I didn't get to meet with you unless I asked, like, hey, can we have a meeting? It just wasn't, the setup wasn't that way. However, in the second school, we had to see each other every week. So in that, comparing those 2, what did you, I know the set speakers talk about how interesting, not challenging, no challenging, I said interesting, that second experience was for you, but how did that, having to see so many people all the time for you, how did that affect you? How did you grow? How did you change that now in your new experience? What are you taking from that experience that you're using in your new experience?
Well, I think, like, if we compare the 3 places. So the first place, I did a lot of work, but because I didn't have relationships with people, nobody even knew what I did. So after I left the school, I left a document trail of the work that I've done, but nobody even knew, or a lot of people didn't even know that actually I did that thing that is now stored in the system of the school, and they could access and they could use, but they didn't know that because I didn't have the time to build the relationships, first of all, and also because the school was so big, there were so many people to talk to if I was actually going to talk to people, that it was just not set up like that. I was in my office most of my time. I sometimes went to classes just to observe or part of the appraisal process, but I didn't get to know people. So actually, because there was no relationship, when I left, it was as if I was never there.
Yep.
Like, and that's just a reality. It's sad for me, but it's a reality. And the second place where we worked together, like as you said, it was overwhelming to spend 80% of my day in meetings, face-to-face meetings with people. I was responsible for 23 people. I was speaking to every person at least once a week, plus dealing with all the little crises that happens along the way, and students, things and all of that. And it was exhausting, always exhausting. But it brought an enlightenment of the difference people, like just how people are different, and how beautiful people are in their differences. How challenging they are, absolutely, but how beautiful they are in their difference. And also what people actually needed from me as a leader. I stopped assuming to know what people need from me. I actually were in a position where I was asking, what can I do to support you? And then even, what can I give you feedback on, instead of just giving feedback, but actually saying that, okay, you want to work on this thing, but okay, you want to have feedback on this, but do you want feedback on the whole thing, or do you really just want to like have this thing that you want to tweak and you want to have like just a comment about that? So, and I had other people who was like, I don't really need you to do anything for me, but I really enjoy our half an hour of chatting time. And I did that for them as well. So it was overwhelming in that particular setting, because the boundaries, because it was the first time to do that, I think that the boundaries was not always set. So I feel like their personal lives and emotions and everything that made them who they are sometimes overwhelmed the professional content that probably should have been discussed in more detail as well. So I think because it was the first time to be in that kind of setting, it was overwhelming for me, but it was also like for them, I think that some people really got what they need because they asked for it and they were clear about it, and some people did not really necessarily reach the point where they wanted to be because they were not clear about it, but they also didn't know how to ask for the help that they need. Because especially when you're new in a place, like we can't start to fix things, we can't start to judge things, we can't start to assume things before we actually took the time to get to know the people we work with.
What they have gone through.
What have they gone through? Like, and do they really not know something, or is it because somebody didn't help them and support them to know something, or is that they know something but they don't have the confidence to really show what they know? Where are they in their journey? Are they just starting? Or is this like an experienced, knowledgeable person, which actually we could utilize to grow and develop other people? Because I think also there's like a stagnation in school. Not everybody is going to go into leadership, but because you're not going to go in leadership doesn't mean you have things to contribute. That's
true.
And like finding that individualized kind of modeling, coaching, counseling, I feel that is showing me a more productive road to leadership.
Like I said, I'm really thankful for you that you and yourself have recognized that, and that you are doing that with people, and recognizing your own boundaries that you have to set, because we were talking about this the other day, how people can siphon your energy, and they don't mean to. Sometimes they're not ready or know how to self-regulate their own emotions, and they've got some things to unpack. And then empathetic people will just try to, yes, like you said, save or fix or love on or, just help. And it's like sometimes helping might be to not help them in that moment, and recognizing that. And a long time ago, you were telling me how there was a leader that you were working with who was not a style that many people, anyone honestly, would really gravitate to, but that you said, I already know what kind of leader I am. I am it wasn't
Servient leader.
a servient leader, correct. And to be of service, this is a running theme in the GR network, that anybody who would be a part of this network is to be of service. And to be of service is such a hard thing for some people to really like embody and like be and live, because there has been those in their life that maybe have, instead of providing them safety, provided them lack. They didn't set them up to feel successful. We're talking about from small children, from maybe parent relationships or teacher relationships, to all the way up. So they've been trying really hard to do it themselves. And to ask people like that to be of service, it takes a lot of working with them and getting them to break down these walls and to establish a growth mindset and saying, don't worry about anybody else right now. Yes, start growing you, but we are here to support you. Look at the people around you, and looking through a different lens, where you're not going to assume that everybody's out to get you, or you're not going to assume that everybody's trying to like compete
Making
with
it safe.
you. Correct. So what would you advise leaders who are either stepping right into leadership, or even you've been here for a while, you've been a leader for 10 years, right? Because we've spoken about, it doesn't matter the amount of years of even service that you would give, it's the quality of that service. What are your like top 3 things that you would say, these have been the things that anywhere I go, they've just quickly made things just, that door has been open, I can get into that person, even the heart, you've had some challenging people, like what made them break, that you were able to just get in there and say, I'm here, trust me, I'm going to give you trust too?
I think, first of all, honesty. I think never lie to people. Like even if you can't, even if you have to like, there's like a balance, the balance between confidentiality and honesty. Like as a leader, you're part of a bigger system, and there are some things which you can share and you shouldn't share. But be honest. Say like, you're right. Like you have the right to be upset about this thing, or you have the right to question this thing. I'm not in a position to really share the details with you, but like, here is what you can do. Like, I think like when you are really honest with people, people respond to honesty. I think that is a big thing for me. And then I think the whole confidentiality and trust. Like, building trust is making people feel safe. And if they have a moment, if they're not always perfect, accepting that about them as well. And again, like we need to, we keep talking about how education is changing for the future. Our teachers is changing too, and their roles are changing, and the way that they facilitate children is changing, and the way that children respond to them is changing. And unless we take the time to build in safety protocols and trust and confidentiality and spaces to grow for teachers, it won't happen. So I think honesty, having truly a safe space to build the trust, and being authentically interested in what people are doing, and being also willing to say that I'm wrong and that I'm still learning, because I'm still learning. Every person that I have that relationship with, I'm gonna get at least one thing that I didn't think about, or that I didn't know about, or like sometimes somebody just mentions a website and I'm like, oh, I could do that. Like, I mean, like we as leaders, we're still learning and adjusting to how things are changing. So I think it's just about being open, authentic, honest, and yeah, just be true.
I would say as someone who has to talk to different kinds of leaders all the time, I would advise people to kind of like what you said, the same thing. Don't assume that your leader has the control. Don't assume that your leader does not have the best interest for you. Sometimes we can see that from this perspective, some leaders don't have the best interest for you. They're kind of just doing a job, right? But there is a certain level of responsibility that I think that teachers need to take for their own growth and development.
Absolutely.
That my leader is not going to do it for me. I have to proactively do it. And a leader like Rene and others that I have met, they are coaches. They are that servant leader. They're going to help you. And your direct might not be somebody who inspires you. It might not be somebody who is cultivating you in a way that you may need. Take that responsibility. It's still you in the end. Like, you still need to do the work. And when you start making those kinds of moves, the people show up, and it's this eerie thing that just happens with the universe. We were talking about this with someone else we know. When you show up, the world shows up for you. So it may not be that person you might have expected to help you. It might not be this leader is responsible for doing this. Yeah, but what's the goal? What is it that you want to do? It might be somebody completely different, and walk into that light, walk into that power, and grow. Because no one could tell me, because of you, honestly, no one can tell me anything. Like, I have to walk down, I have to calm down sometimes and say, Sheena, calm down. Not everybody thinks like you. But because of you and the level of you were my mirror. You showed me who I am and I had to accept, and then who I could become. And then along the way, you're like, I can see this happening. I can see that happening. And I'm like, I don't see that yet, but thank you for seeing it for me. And a lot of people can't see themselves. So again, a leader like this, if it's not who's directly working with you, someone around you is that. And the leader doesn't have to be someone who holds that title. It could be the person right next door.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's also that whether people want to admit it or not, education is a service industry. We are providing a service to students. We are providing a service to parents. We are doing a service to a community. Even if you're working in a non-profit school or a profit school, any kind of educational institution is a service that we are providing.
Yes.
It's not about what they can do for you. It is about what you can do for them.
I love that. I love it. What can you do for others? I want to end it on that, because that's just wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm going to ask you.